We want to know if he's single.
People want to know this question. Like everyone asks me this question.
Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Ball Talk Show.
So, William, welcome to my podcast.
Okay, thank you.
Ever since I hosted Nyaika was on my podcast, I think back in episode like 70 something. I don't know if you ever listened to that episode I recorded with Nyaika, but it was a few times he mentioned your name. And at the end, I asked people, who would you like to see on my podcast? So he recommended you. And him and I were trying to get you on the podcast. And Nyaika was like, Ori Agambi, your podcast. No, I think at that time you were still busy. And I was like, I told him, get that guy to a podcast.
Yeah, he talked to me about it, and yeah, I've been really trying to get a free slot. This Sunday worked out. I was happy. Yeah, I was like, okay.
I'm so happy to finally get you. You're a busy guy, and you're one person. You're the first person on my podcast that when I put out that post to people to ask you questions, you got the most questions than I've ever had on anybody on my podcast. Usually, and that's why your episode is going to be different, because you had more questions than I can include in my regular podcast. Because usually I bring people here, I ask them about their lives, I ask them about the things, and then at the end, I bring in the questions that people ask. But for your episode, I got more questions than I can put in the slot of time that I can ask you. So there's a lot of people who look at your work, appreciate your work, love your work. So you're going to enjoy this today.
Mad love. I don't know if I should be worried or excited. So let me be excited.
Yeah, just be excited. There's no hard questions. And usually the way I try to do the podcast is I try to make it like a conversation. It's not like a quiz. It's not like a test, I'm trying to do different kind of interviews where it's not like I'm testing somebody about something. I just want somebody to talk about something and we have a conversation back and forth. But before I go into all these questions, I got to say thanks for doing a great job. Everybody on Instagram, everybody who is on Instagram and knows photography, at least somebody knows PicturesWilliamTakes. That's a good job. And I look at your page, I'm like, this guy is so talented. So thanks for doing a good work, man.
Appreciate the love.
So how did you get into photography? I'll start with that, just a little bit of a few questions, and then I'll bring in the other people's questions. How did you get into photography? And I know for the listeners, actually, William is a photographer and also he's a doctor. Walk us through like that. How did you start photography? Just talk about the journey, how you the first time to get a camera or like to get into photography.
Well, I was a very shy kid when I was growing up. Surprisingly, no one believes me when I tell them I'm a shy person. I was, and I'm still a very shy person. I was like a heavy introvert. But my dad, I think I was probably like 11 or 10 thereabouts. So he got me my first camera. And mostly it was to get me doing something at family parties and like friends, because when you're the shy kid, you just go, you sit somewhere in a corner, you wait for the party to get done, and you go home. So yeah, you know how back in the day we had those film cameras.
Okay.
And yeah, it didn't go well. Because like back in the day you had 36 shots. It went horribly. I don't know if she'll remember. She's called Kunda. There's some family friends from Sierra Leone and Liberia at the time. But film cameras, very difficult to use, especially the rangefinder style. You'd have to wait like a week as they develop the pictures. So you don't really know what's going to come. And I remember I used to go to Diamond Trust building to process films. So I went with my rolls. I saved my money. I took them there. Went back after a week, and first of all, when you go to pick and then the guys are laughing and you have no idea why they're laughing. And so the pictures were just hilarious. So like people's heads were cut off. focus. I had like, I think out of, because I shot 2 rolls of film, and I remember I got like 5 photos that were good. And you know when you're being all up in people's faces, taking photos, like so everyone expecting photos from you. And yeah, I just remember like I had these 5 good photos, and I told the guy, just make me copies of these, and that's what I did. Yeah, but after that, yeah, photography has really been good to me, I say.
Yeah.
I've been shooting for a really long time. It's just I don't know. Maybe I wasn't very actively sharing a lot of my work, but I think people who know me know I've been shooting for a long time. Because I shot all through my Form 4 vacation, through Form 6 back. Actually, in Form 6 vacation, I was doing even events. I was doing, like, you shoot with someone, you go to a wedding, you're the second shooter. I did that all through med school as well.
Oh, wow.
I had like a side hustle. Because you know when you're in campus, man, pocket money is tight. So yeah, and if you're in, so I was in government doing medicine, and I didn't have, like, you can't be stressing your parents with pocket money and stuff. So yeah, so that was my side hustle. Do weddings on the weekend, events like birthday showers, birthday parties, Coachellas with like a second shooter, weddings with other people. Like you come on as the extra guy. Yeah, and I did that all through med school. Had some pocket money to survive. Yeah, and just kept shooting. Yeah.
Would you say photography started as just a means to get some extra pocket money, or like did it start as a hobby?
No, I think it started as a hobby. The extra pocket money just came as a happy by the way. Like, hey, wait, I'm doing thing I like, and I can actually get some money from it. So that was the happy by the way. But photography has always been a passion thing. It's like right from that time, like just picking up something and then going deep into it. Because yeah, I really went, like, after that first set of bad photos, I think there was like some eye opening, like, yeah, you must really get to this thing. And so I did literally everything. Like, I know there used to be photo books at a stock, so you go buy from there. Then when the internet came, of course, watch every single YouTube channel in the world. Go to all the sites, basically everything. Like right from Flickr back in the day. I think my Flickr account is still active with like some very, very shady, interesting photos.
That's interesting. So the other question I'm going to ask you before we go into the people's question. Now, how you met Nyaika? The other day I was looking at the picture. Nyaika posted that picture of you and him, and who is this guy for the spokesperson for NUP?
Yeah, the Honorable. Yeah.
What was that moment? And also the question I asked earlier, like how you met Nyaika. But first time with that moment of that picture, like what was that?
Moment. So that was actually for Grace Villa. So Grace Villa is a girls' orphanage. So yeah, I've been supporting them from probably around 2014, about 2016, way back, basically.
Yeah.
And
actually, Nyaika talks about that when he was on the podcast. Yeah, he talks about Grace Villa.
Yeah, no, Grace Villa is, what Ruth and her team are doing with those girls is really amazing. And so we were doing a fundraising campaign. And so we met up as all these people who come to support Grace Villa. And we were doing a hike, actually. We were climbing Mount Muhavura. And like it was a 1-day climb all the way to the top. And then going to do gorilla trekking and the whole thing. It was a really nice thing. Met a lot of good people, like Honorable Joe.
Yeah.
So it was fun. Of course, I think me and Edwin were taking photos as well, as a just as a by the way. Like you go in to capture some photos, of course, share for the whole trip, which was, it's another good thing with photography is like you have a lot of these memories that you can place in some point in time and come back to. So that was good. But no, Edwin, like I've known Edwin for a long. Edwin is my cousin, so I've
Okay.
known him for like a really long time. But I think like bringing him to how I know him as a photographer is, so I was already a photographer and like shooting for a while. And I think Edwin had gotten done with his uni because he did IT in uni. And I think he was going to do a master's or going to do or like starting a job or something. But I used to like use him as a second shooter for events. So he'd tag along, like maybe he'd do video, I do photography. So he picked up all the things that I was doing. And yeah,
Yeah.
like I kind of like said, boss, just come, you will learn by force.
People who are listening to this episode right now, the Miss Nyaika's episode, when you go back to Nyaika's episode, he literally said the same exact thing you said, like how his journey started. You told him all this editing, and he gives you credit for that. And in that episode, he talks a lot about how you guys met, and that's how I wanted to just share to hear from your side of the story how you met Edwin, and he was a blessing. He was an awesome guy. The work he does on Instagram, everybody loves it. The work you do on Instagram, everybody loves it. Every time you're on the internet, you just see a picture crossing around, picture William Takes, or like with a watermark, or you see a video that's Nyaika video 256. Like you guys have taken over Instagram in a good way, and a lot of people are giving you credit. A lot of photographers. I've hosted a lot of photographers on the podcast. I like to sit down with you guys so that people can just know your backstory, not just seeing you on Instagram today and they're like, oh, the guy Yamala, yo, he does all. But here, you just shared your story. Like the first pictures you took a bunch of them, but only 5 were good pictures. People would never know that story if they just see you on Instagram, you know? But that's amazing, and I love that. Let's jump in the people's questions because there's a lot, and I don't want to keep you here for a whole day because there's a lot of questions. Do you want me to read the username, or you just want me to go questions? Like people's username who asked what, or just go?
No, I think it's okay. Like if I get to know the username, then when I come back to the episode, I can probably reach out to some of the people. So yeah, username. I like it.
All right. And I think this was on Instagram. Kakreta at Kakreta _ Anita. He asks, is he always stressed? And if no, how does he handle that?
Okay, so this is where, like, I have 2 jobs. I like to tell people I do a lot of jobs. And one of my jobs is really stressful because I'm a consultant radiologist. And so to get where I am in medicine, I had to do like the 5 years of medical school, do internship, do my residency in radiology, then work for a bit, do like some more like a fellowship in oncology imaging. So medicine teaches you one thing that you do very well, which is compartmentalization and also how to deal with stressful situations. And like, I just carried that across, like from like going to work in the hospital or going to work in like in a photography gig or something, or even just like how I organize my life. To try and avoid stress, I try and make sure everything is like properly set, like have a timetable, follow it, be disciplined about it. I think like stress is mostly a reaction to when you can't like properly accommodate different situations. So I just try and avoid that. Like I know all the things that will stress me. Like if I'm not on time for something, I'm going to get stressed. Like all the people who are shooting at gigs know that if the concert starts at maybe 6, I'm there maybe at 4:30. It's an event and it's like starting at, I don't know, 7. I'm there like early enough, get the pre-shoot, get the lay of the land, get the people like it's just my thing. Adequate time management, know when to take a break. Like because there's some gigs I won't shoot because I know I probably won't be able to make it, or like even if I make it, I won't be able to handle the entirety of the workload like with my job. So it's a fine balance, but after some time you get it, and you're in a happy place where you can balance
Yeah.
things out. Yeah, it just takes a bit of discipline. That's the truth.
Back in the day, with the photographers who had for a cameraman, when cameraman is coming to like shoot like a wedding or something, they usually, and this is like an issue with a lot of people in Uganda, like late to events and stuff like that. Would you say the photographers nowadays have improved on that, or it's just a personality thing?
Well, for me, it's always been a personality thing, but I must say, at least for events and wedding photography, it's really gotten better because the competition now is very tight. Because if you have guys like Makula Pictures, you have Country with a Camera, like people who are really doing excellent work. You can't afford to be the guy who is going to come late, come dressed however you want, delay to give people their pictures, because people talk. Like
Right.
if you have a bad reputation, everything hinges on that. So like it's a lot better now.
From the same person, Kakreta _ Anita, does he love being a doctor?
Oh, I love it. Like I
What's your
love
favorite
it.
moment of being a doctor? Yeah.
So okay, there are like many favorite moments, but in my current role as a radiologist, I'd say one of the is solving a diagnostic conundrum. Like for example, the patient has come to the hospital and no one knows what's wrong with the patient, and you go in as the Sherlock Holmes, for in quotes.
Yeah.
So you're looking at all these images, taking the history, and trying to figure out what's actually happening in this patient. And unfortunately, most of the time I work like, so my place of employ is the Cancer Institute. So probably 85% it's a cancer or something that's nasty. But just being able to actually make that diagnosis, it's a rewarding feeling. Like knowing, okay, yeah, I've solved that problem and this can help. But a better feeling is when we get remission scans. So if a patient has done, you saw the patient, they came in, they did say a CT scan, you saw a tumor, they go in, maybe they cut out part of it, they do some chemotherapy, they do radiotherapy, and they come back for a second scan. So when you look at the images and you write no residual cancer seen, yeah, that's one of the best feelings.
That's amazing.
Yeah, this person is sorted. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
a really good feeling.
Even you just talking about it, like it's a good feeling. And for somebody like me who has lost somebody from cancer, like hearing that, it gives you like a happy thing. At least somebody else like survived, and people
Yeah.
out there are listening. Like, it gives them hope. Like, oh yeah, this guy on the podcast just saying like somebody came back with this cancer, says free cancer. It gives people some hope, and like I can see how that brings a smile to
Yeah.
you, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. Another person who asked a question, picture by Simon. I don't know if you know.
I think I met him at an event just in across here. Okay.
Yeah, picture by Simon on Instagram. He's a role model. How does someone gift to work with him, like a collaboration in form of work?
Oh, that's okay. I'll reach out to Simon. I'm actually doing I started doing a series where I'm shooting with friends. So I just reach out to different photographers, videographers, artists. I just kicked it off this year, so maybe I haven't reached out to everyone.
Okay.
But yeah, my DMs are always open. Like if you ever want to do a collaborative shoot, anything, you just just DM me and we'll work something out.
I like the you leave your door open for people and opportunities, and remembering that there's a lot of people who would like improve their work and just hold them with their hands and just rise with them. I like that kind of stuff. Like, so I'm so glad that you're able to open your doors for everybody.
Yeah, no, it's very fulfilling. Like when you work with other people, and it's not necessarily that maybe someone knows less than you do, or their skill level is not at where you are, but like if everyone is able to do their best, then like it's a win-win for everyone. I mean, so if I can teach you something, if you can teach me something, at the end of the day, all of us are winning. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's great, and that's the way we're supposed to live life. I'm gonna try to go a little bit faster because I have a lot of questions and I don't want to keep here longer. Um, there's another guy, Busfar. I think I had him on the podcast. He's also actually
yeah, I know
a
Bush Friends.
doctor. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know photographer. So I had his episode here on the podcast. Actually, the funny story. I'll tell you a quick funny story. When Yaika recommended a photographer who is a doctor, I don't think I caught on the name William. So I was on Instagram and I saw this guy's bio, and he's a doctor and he's a photographer. So I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, Yaika recommended you to be on my podcast, and I want to host you and this and this." And the guy was like, "Oh, me? I don't really know Nyaika that much because we're not." I was like, "Oh, really?" And then when I went back to do more research, I found out like PicturesWilliamTakes is the one Nyaika was talking about. But I was already in touch with this guy, and I was like, he doesn't hide anything. I want to hear his story too. And I had him on the podcast. Yeah. So I hit two birds with one stone.
Boom, boom.
Yeah. So his question: if you had to drop one and proceed with the other, medicine or photography, which one would you proceed with and why?
Oh, this is a tricky question. Yeah, but like I think many people ask me this question, and it's always a tricky question. But I try and answer, like, if I'm being honest, I don't think I'll ever put myself in a position where I have to choose between the two. But if I had to choose, I would always choose medicine. Reason being is, like, I've always wanted to do medicine, like, since I was a kid. Like, even before I started photography, my sis was asthmatic, so we're in and out of hospital from when I was like, I think as early as I could remember. And I had an uncle who was a doctor, whose clinic we used to go to. So me and the hospital were tight. So medicine it's just one of those things where especially in Uganda, it's almost a very selfless profession, because you give a lot of yourself, and it's exhausting and overwhelming at times. And yes, the rewards are not very monetary best, I would say, in Uganda. Like, we're not getting the biggest monies, but you make a lot of impact in people's lives, and I don't know, it gives me a lot of joy practicing medicine. There's no point I see in my life where I'm ever going to put myself in a position to choose between the two. Because if I was able to do photography and medicine through med school, through internship, through my residency, through all the extra trainings I've done, they've always been together. So for me, actually, like, I do radiology, and radiology is literally pictures.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's not very different. Like, maybe one part radiology, you're looking into the human body, and photography, you're looking on the outside, but you get a bit of what's going on the inside also from photography. So
that's funny because I was sick this week. I got down with a fever, and last year in November I got diagnosed with pneumonia, and they had to take pictures of my lungs. And yesterday I went to the hospital, and they did the same thing. And they took pictures of my lungs, and the nurse was like, "Oh, we're gonna send these pictures to the radiologist, and then we'll get back with you about your results." And he came back, I don't have pneumonia, but it's pretty cool that that's what you do. The other thing I wasn't gonna miss is what you just said when you're answering that question. You said a line that in Uganda, yes, the money might be low, but the impact you make to people is bigger than that. I like the mindset of that the mindset is not about making the bag, which you could make a bag. You could leave Uganda and go to the US and just make a ton of money. But when you look at it like that, make an impact where you are and with what you do, it's bigger than what people could think. So I picked up on that. At Omoisiki_Zoe.
I think I follow her. Yeah, I know Zoe as well. Yeah, I know all these people. All my followers.
Yeah, yeah, they're all your followers because when I shared it, they were all like subscribing to you.
Yeah.
She says, "How does he balance photography and medicine and still get time to shag?" I don't know if that was like a typo or you know what she meant. I was gonna ask you that. What does like shag mean?
Probably means how do you like make sure you're doing well in both? Like if you're
Okay.
shining fields.
Okay.
If I'm being completely honest, well, it's not always been like clear cut that I'm shining in both. Because I know like during residency and like a bit of the later years of medical school, it's very tough to allocate time to like do things like photography, and people don't really understand, and you tell them, hey, I have an event, I have to go like shoots, I can't like be there for this. And like obviously people's lives are like sometimes they're on the line, so you have to be ready to flip. But just the same way I answered Anita's question, it's mostly like discipline and time scheduling. So I always pretty much know, at least now, beforehand, what I'm meant to do with my time. Like I know that I'm meant to be working for these hours on these days, and I know that I have photography work also on a particular set of days. And I try to balance both by just sticking to a schedule that works and try not to overlap. And because it's very easy to compromise and say, oh, no, I think I can take this extra gig and like come there and then I'll be able to. Yeah, but you learn very early on that if you overstretch yourself, you get burnout.
That is true.
So it's just a bit of discipline again and
Yeah.
scheduling.
At Emancipated. I don't know if you know that one. I think that was the username at Emancipated. I think that was on Instagram still. We want to know if he's single.
People want to know this question. Like everyone asks me this question. But if
Yeah.
my mom went this, she will arrest me if I answer. So I'm meant to just like I'll send it in the DMs to Emancipated.
Okay, that's a good idea. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. And then I think I kind of, when I was transferring the questions from social media to my iPad, my notes, I kind of messed up who asked what. But if you're listening to this podcast and you hear that question, at least I'm gonna ask a question. I might not remember the username, but the question is he that kind of scientist that believes in Big Bang Theory? Or is he a Christian?
Let me put it like this. I believe that there is a lot of things that happen in the world that science can explain, and a lot of things that we don't know that science can't yet explain. But there has to be a cause for everything that is happening. And in most instances, if you look deep inside, you believe in a spiritual being or a higher being that is taking care of everything. Otherwise, life becomes a bit pointless. But do I believe in the evidence of science? Yes, of course. Like if you see something and you can explain it, but there are underpinning rules to the universe. So someone must have written those rules, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Why radiography?
Why radiology? Huh.
Yeah.
Again, another interesting question. So there are quite a number of fields in medicine that you can do, like surgery, internal medicine, where you'd be like a doctor house, pediatrics, a number. But radiology for me was mostly because I'm very curious and I've always been a curious kid. Like I think my dad at one time just got tired of me asking questions like why, what's this, like why is this, how do we do this? So radiology gives you that extra leeway to find answers. And even in radiology, we have quite a number of subspecialties. There's interventional radiology, where you're doing minimal access procedures to solve solutions in the body. And then diagnostic radiology, we have musculoskeletal, we have just imaging of the brain, we have hybrid imaging using nuclear medicine, we have imaging for cancer, we have imaging for pediatrics, which is children. So there's a lot you can do. But radiology specifically is because it helps, it's like you're the doctor's doctor, for example. So if the doctors have a question, they come and they ask you, hey, William, I think maybe this patient has had a stroke, but they could have a brain tumor. We don't know. Can you do a scan and look at their brain? And William will do a scan, look at their brain and say, yeah, this looks like it's a brain tumor because of X, Y, Z, because it looks like this. And yeah, so from probably first year med school, I was like, I'm into radio. Now my specialty is I'm doing mostly oncology imaging, so looking for cancers, and with an intervention and nuclear medicine subspecialties. So also using a bit of minimal guided access to take biopsy samples, to place some things into the body to help fight the cancers, some higher imaging using things that would be blowing up the world, but now we're using them to do diagnostics. So again, it's very interesting. Like I said, I'm a very curious person. So
yeah, I give so much respect to anybody who does science, who did science, even in high school. The only closest thing I did to science was math. I was a guy who did math, economics, and geography. But those I could have done physics, but I had a different path I wanted to take. But those who did PCB, chemistry, biology, nah, I wasn't those kids. I dropped chemistry in senior one. So anybody who did,
chemistry, biology, those are my tight subjects, man. Those are my favorite. There's always a mystery, like what's going on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Another question. Yeah. Does he love tech? Like, I think technology. And is he into data? What would he one day accept the opportunity to join a project that is using data in his field?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Like, am I into tech? For sure. Since I could touch anything. Yeah, I blame my dad. My dad was a very big influence in my tech field.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably also why my pockets are almost always running empty, because I'm always buying gadgets upon gadgets. But yes, as far as data, yeah, I'm actually a data scientist. Again, this is just because of curiosity. So I did machine learning and data science. I have certification in deep learning applications, particularly for medicine. So just in medicine in general, and also in radiology imaging. I've actually set up an AI lab at the Cancer Institute where I work in my department. So we're doing artificial intelligence models to look at different ways of diagnosing diseases on imaging. So looking for metastases in the lungs on X-rays, looking at progress of tumors, characterization. So I'm doing all of that. So whoever asked the question, yes, please send me a deal, follow up with an email. You can come by to the institute and see what we're doing, but I'd be more than happy to join in. Yeah, anything.
Yeah. I'm going to pose in my question here. This was not on here. My question was, you like taking photos. Why is it hard, like, for you to get a picture of yourself? I remember when I was messaging you, we were trying to find a picture for William to use. Why is it hard for you to get a picture of yourself?
Today's episode is sponsored by Dancesoft Gamers. Dancesoft Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.dancesoftgamers.co. That is www.dancesoftgamers.co.
Yeah, See, Basha, I told you I'm a very shy person, but no one believes me until they try to find pictures of me, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Ah, wait, this guy is not lying." One of the reasons for actually shooting is because if I'm the one behind the camera, then I can hide properly. I can. The camera is like a shield, per se, so it kind of keeps me out of everyone's field of view. They only see the
Yeah.
camera, they don't. But I've been trying to take more photos. A lot of people, especially my friends, when they try and look for photos to post of me and I'm not there. So I've been trying to take a lot more photos. Uh, but like, yeah, it's to be honest, it's just a shy thing, which I'm trying to fight.
I know I've asked you this question before, but I think I'll still ask it and see if there's any way you can relate to it. Is photography just a hobby, or do you have bigger plans for it?
So I do have like plans in my head for what I want to do with photography. Uh, but if I'm to tell you all the things that I've done with photography, like I've done pretty much everything that can be done in
Okay.
Uganda. Like I had a photography company. We did weddings, we did events, we did the whole thing where you book events, you go, you shoot. So I did that. So I had that, and that is usually what most people pivot to. I did freelance photography. I've done photography for installations, for competitions. I've done all of that. I've done art installations with 32 Degrees East and Cla Art. Yeah, I did. I think the last one was 2018, which I was in. I've done international gallery. I think the last one was in New York and another one in Paris. So I've as far as like if where do you want to go with this photography thing?
Yeah.
Like there was a channel or a branch that you could say do this in photography. I've done it, like sell
Yeah.
prints of my work. I've sold prints, do photo books. I did a run of photo books that I sold with some friends.
Mhm.
So I've really done a lot. But also, like right now, mostly what I think I like doing is like just sharing like knowledge on photography, because I have maybe not a lot more dedicated time to go into like a full photography oriented business. Maybe if it was with some partners who were interested, then yes, then I would like venture into that. But personally, I shoot what I want. I do a lot more personal projects for stuff that I have ideas about, and maybe I'll
Mhm.
reach someone and then I go that route. So more editorial style, art style, direction, photography of just projects that I want to put out there. And yeah, teaching photography.
Uh-huh.
Very counterintuitive, but I like talking about photography. But what I want to do is put up a photography studio, not studio, gallery. Yeah,
Yeah.
first of its in Kampala. So just keep your fingers crossed. I'll send you an email. I'm finally opening that gallery. That's like if everything goes well and like all the stars align, that's probably the one thing that I'd be happiest about, because there are a lot of art galleries, but none of them do just photography. And maybe photography is not seen perhaps as an art style a lot here as it is in maybe other places, but I don't know.
That's amazing, and to see where photography is today compared to where it was when we were younger. Like I
Mhm.
tell people stories, like when we were younger, I tell people a lot in America. The stories like when you were younger, the cameraman will come to your house and go, "Hey, Bunny, get on out of the way, nice clothes. Cameraman is just much fun." He comes there, quick 2 seconds, ta ta ta. He doesn't even know where the light is coming from or where the what's gonna come out. Stand there, pa pa pa
Let's take it.
pa, and
Go.
then just take it. But to see where it is now, and just I'm actually looking at, I'm on your page right now to see even the recent pictures you have. I think it was it Sharon, the one you had, the latest one you've just done, and all the people that you've
Yeah.
done. Like you see the effort and the work and the talent. It's not just buying a camera and just, oh, I have money to buy a camera. It has a lot to do with a talent and knowing what you're doing and doing research and putting work in there. And you have done that. And when you say that I've done pretty much anything that a photographer can do or you can want to do, and definitely that answers it in your work, even when somebody just goes to your page. And that's why one time when somebody, when I post those pages of like, oh, I'm going to host this person on my podcast, somebody was like, hey, when you post those, can you put below what these people do so that we can know what questions to ask? When I was posting yours, I literally just said, when you just say PicturesWilliamTakes, that's an introduction right there. Just click on that and you see like what he does. Your work speaks for itself. Like you don't need an introduction for your work. And that's a compliment to what you do. I saw this on Twitter. Joy, I think _C. She says, I love this guy's photography because you feel the moment as if you were there. Like that caught my eyes. I'm like, yeah, you look at PicturesWilliamTakes, like your picture, and you feel like you're in that picture. You're in that moment. How do you make it that happen to us? Even if you're just seeing it through Instagram, you make us feel like we were there.
Well, to be honest, I think the one thing is people separate themselves a lot when they're shooting. You try and be a bystander and like capture the moments from outside. But I actually like to be in that moment. And there's a few things. Mostly it's on the technical side, it's the choice of lenses you're using, the composition, the framing, how you're going to edit it later. All of those come into play. But on the other hand, it's having people be comfortable with you as a photographer, knowing that, no, this guy is actually doing his job. Like he's not, like you're not invading people's spaces, you're not being rude, you're not being intrusive. You have some level of decorum that you're following. And I really want to thank the guys of Nege Nege because I think I shot Nege Nege for like 4 or 5 years in a row, man. Like from when it was nothing. And it was like just getting comfortable shooting people in places where they're free, where they're having fun, and you're also having fun. And it kind of like loosens you up. And one other thing is I always ask people if I can take their photos. I think like all the people who you'll see on my page, it doesn't look like they're forced or they don't look like they're not aware that I'm taking their photo. And I think that's another thing for event photography. For the other style of photography, it's okay. But like in events, if people know what you're doing, then they're kind of relaxed around you. And then you also relaxed around them because you're like, oh, people, they know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And so I go in. I think the really last thing I had fun at was Afrotopia. It was an Afro House event, and it was a really small shooting space. And just like the Gemstone Hangout, so really small, intimate spaces. And so I'm shooting with a 35mm, which is like not what most event photographers shoot with. They'll go with a 70-200, which is a very long telephoto lens. So you have to stand back from the crowd and shoot what you're seeing. But with a 35, I'm right up in there, in the same space as the people who are actually having the party. So I'm also having a party. And I do like dancing. I think like Edwin has like some videos, or even Jackson has like videos of me shooting. I'll shoot some frames, and I'll put the camera down and like dance for a bit.
Yeah.
Then I have to take some photos. Then yeah. I think if you just like put your barriers down and just like go in and like live in the moment, then you can capture it. Yeah.
Right. That's a good answer actually, to say like put yourself in the moment, because whenever you do what you love and put in there, it comes out. Like people like us, we're able to tell that even us who are just looking at it, it puts us in the moment. And when you do your work with all your heart and just putting in there, it shows, and people are able to tell that. I don't want to miss anybody's question. There's another question in line of what you were talking about, like having your work in New York. Somebody asked, does he one day want to take pictures at the Grammys or like Beyonce's concert? Such a big event.
Beyonce, if you're hearing this, please, like I'll get a video, I'll do everything. Just like send me the invite. Thank you. People might share this till it reaches Beyonce. Like, please.
It's gonna start with me. I'm gonna tag Beyonce in this.
Alright. But yeah, I think so there's one really cool photographer, because driven by boredom, and he's on Instagram. He does like almost a lot of that same style of photography, and also Cedric Kinzaka, who does everyday people stories. Like if you see where they've come from, it's literally like you can shoot your own style every day, post your work, and sooner or later, like if you're putting in the work, the opportunities will come. Like Inzaka just did a shoot with Davido for his new album release, and like I looked at the photos and I did not know who had shot them. Like I didn't even see the tag, but I knew immediately that this was Cedric's work, just because of his style. Like it's up close, it's personal, but it's very good portrait photography work. And I knew instantly. I was like, I put money. Like I was that confident that it was him. And then I see it I see that it's his page, and I was like, yes, that's my guy. But Cedric came from Kenya. He's now in South Africa, and he's shooting all these big brands. And again, like, yes, if the opportunity comes to go shoot the Grammys, man, I'll pack my bags and go. Like when opportunity comes knocking at your door, you don't say, hey, I'm not ready. Yeah. You get up and go.
You just go. Yeah. That is awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. And you have to stay ready, so you don't have to get ready. But it was funny because right now, and I'm not talented as you, I'm not putting myself anywhere close to, but I would say I'll go on Instagram before I see your watermark somewhere. My first choice will be that's William's picture. That's all. Like I would see. Nowadays it's hard to tell because you guys have your watermarks in there. But I think when you posted your recent work, like Sharon, I don't know if I'd seen it. I was like, I think that's William's picture, and like searching backwards, all the people reshared it and all that. Yeah. But I'm getting close to just you and Nyaika. Like I can tell you guys work pretty quick. I don't know if because I just follow you, that's all I see. Maybe that's the reason.
Well, it's actually such a good feeling when people tell you they recognize your work. Someone actually like sent me a message and they were like, "Oh, I saw these photos on the Jameson Uganda page, but I knew it was you who shot them. Like, because if I do paid work, I don't put a watermark. I'll just leave it." But they were like, "Did you shoot this event? Because I'm sure this is your work." And I was like, "Yeah, that's my work." And then like I knew it. I just knew it. And like it gives you like a very like a modicum of joy just to know that, hey, I'm doing something right. So
I just saw a page on Twitter that shared used Nyaika's work for like a story or something, and Nyaika reshared it. I don't know if you've seen that. Like it was a wildlife. It was wildlife pictures, and there's a page that reshared it. And I think Nyaika posted it like 5 years ago, and then they just reshared it. And Nyaika went to their page and in their comment and just shared his tweet that he shared 5 years ago of like his pictures.
Yeah, it's very interesting, really, because with the way the internet is open and like most of the pictures, like you put them out in public domain, people oftentimes just get comfortable with like sharing your work, no accreditation, no nothing. Mm-hmm. I think like it happened to Conrad, like Chapat, like a few weeks ago. It happened to Buskago just like literally a few days ago. And
yeah, Buskago talked about that on the podcast.
And I'm like, this is Chapat's work. I don't even have to, I just know. And I'm thinking, where's the watermark? And this person has cropped out. And I go, oh wait, this is Buskago who shot this. I know his watermark is always inlaid into his images. This person has gone and put like a block of like a background just to cover it up, and it's difficult because on the one hand, like until last year, literally, I never used to watermark any of my images until it just became too much because you're like, please just tag me. Like, I don't even want you to pay me, just tag me. Because maybe someone who can pay me will see that I do good work. And people are like, no. Like, until people are like, please put a watermark on your images. I was like, I don't like putting watermarks. And I'm like, please put. So I said putting a watermark. But it's, anyway, you fight it. You come back to it. It's a challenge. We move.
Yeah, because when I had Nyeka had the same issue too with his video. He tagged who was the artist, and he invited them for a collab. They declined it, but they ended up posting his video on their page without any credits on him.
Yeah, it's mad.
It hurts when you see your work being used without even just what you said. Just tag me, just give me credit. Like, hey, this is
give me credit.
There was a post that I think the Buswata on Twitter. I think she used I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'll put it in here. But she says in Uganda, when someone buys a phone, a car, a home, necessities, or builds a house, go out for dinner, they'll take Twitter, Snap, and Facebook. When they take flights or anything, they have to post. Why do we do this? I'm asking. That was her tweet. And then I was captured by your response. And your response was, because we're a sad generation with happy pictures, don't take our pictures, please. I laughed at that. What was behind that? What did you think about when you say that?
Yeah, no, I think it's from Joshua Baraka line in one of his songs. I think it's Joshua Baraka. Yeah, where he puts that line of we're a happy generation with sad generation with like pretty pictures. And like it's at the back of my head whenever someone tries to come for pictures. But like this particular one, I was like, people are celebrating their small wins. Like everything is like hectic at the moment. I mean, economy is poor, people are sick. Like guys have small things to be happy about. So if guys go out, they post their pictures, they're happy. Maybe they have them. Like Snapchat is getting to share the memories with you in like 3 years. Remember those days when you were happy? So yeah, so like all people have these days are pictures because we're not back in the day. You'd have an album, right? And that album would have memories from you growing up. Maybe the first day you've gone to school, your dad has like taken some photos in the camera film. Your Christmas party, you've gone to visit somewhere, you've gone on a trip, you've gone to the beach. You have those photos in your album. But now people don't have albums. They don't print their picture. The only thing you have is your smartphone and your social media accounts. So those are like our stores of what's going on in our lives, man. It's like an archive.
And if you remember when we had those albums, when the visitors come, what's the first thing we'd bring? Album. See.
Yeah.
So that's
like,
what
it's
see.
The same thing. It's the same thing now. Yeah. We're just sharing our memories, but the good thing is now we have all this cloud storage space. We have these phones that have very good cameras that we can capture memories whenever. So let people share their memories. Let guys be happy. Yeah.
Now that we're on Twitter, I'll ask all the questions we got from Twitter. Eminado says, does he still play soccer?
So not anymore. Yeah, I got a bad ACL injury. Actually, this was from rugby. So I got a bad ACL injury. I had to have surgery, so I have actually grafts in my knee and some screws holding my knee together. So I can't play soccer anymore. The way we used soccer was quite violent. We call it survival. So yeah, I can't play soccer anymore. But I play FPL, so there's that.
And then this other question, I think you answered it on Twitter because the person asked, does he teach editing lessons? And then you said yes, but would you expand on that?
Yeah, so I think I've been doing a few series of classes with the team at Uganda. Really just basics. Like we've had 2 sessions, and yeah, I think I hope the people who came had like got some benefit from it. But we're cooking up something as well, like a photography masterclass of sorts, for those who are interested. So yeah, just again, if you're keen, DM me when it's fully ready. You'll be the first to know. But yeah, just again, sharing things about photography. Like I can talk for 6 days straight about
Yeah.
photography. Yeah, like and people who have attended the classes will know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
I do teach photography if you're interested, right from basics to the tools you need to use, the how to get your own style, how to use your equipment to the maximum, selecting the right equipment for what you want to do, editing and making software your friend. Like so, anything that you can choose to learn about photography, you can come to me. Yeah.
Again, yeah, that's a good opportunity for everybody listening and everybody who wanted to learn from your work and hear what you do. So final questions about your career, and then we'll wrap this up. I've been holding you for a long time. Dr. Cece, she was on Instagram actually. I don't know if you know her, but I think from her questions, I think she knows you. She's in UK right now.
I know Dr. Cece. Yeah, I know her.
And I'm gonna have her on the podcast here soon.
You should. You should.
Our questions: would he quit medicine completely for photography or videography if the pay was better? And
No.
is the pay better?
Well, let me put it like this. So I was in. There's some days when the pay from photography is better. Like you'll close the month and you've made more money from photography than you've made from medicine. And I think that probably only happens in Uganda. Maybe not anywhere else. But yeah, like it's the same question Busra asked. Like one, I'll never put myself in that position
Right.
because I'm not in it for either. But yeah, medicine first. Yeah.
Okay. For the listeners, sorry about the dogs in the background. There's nothing we can do about it.
Oh,
Just
those are my. I have
oh, there
6
dogs.
guys.
You have 6 dogs.
Yeah, I have 6 dogs and 1 cat.
Oh,
So it's almost feeding time. So that's why they're getting antsy. But
did he eventually do interventional radiology? If not, does he plan to?
yeah, so yeah, like I said, one of the areas I'm specializing in is interventional radiology. And most of my subspecialties are hybrid radiology, really, because nuclear medicine and interventional radiology, but almost all focused towards oncology, so imaging and therapeutics for cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are all the questions from the listeners, and I'm so excited. I'm so happy that the listeners turned out for this one, asked all these questions. I like it when I can give people what they want. Usually, I try to think of different ideas to be better on the podcast, to how I can make it entertaining, how I can, because I'm also just learning this thing. I mean, I've been doing it, but I want to keep improving every day to be better. And what people want is what I want to give to them sometimes and bring in. So this one was different, that I wanted to answer the questions that people wanted for you. And I'm thankful for everybody that asked these questions to make this episode happen. I mean, even if you didn't ask questions, I was going to come up with my own, but it helps me when I don't have to fish for questions. So this answers it. But I was curious of your journey. Like, were you born in Kampala, or did you come from another part to Kampala?
No, I was born in Kampala. I was born in Mengo Hospital. Yeah.
Oh, right.
My mom likes telling the story.
Those stories, yeah.
Yeah.
What schools did you go to?
So I went to. I've gone to like not a lot of schools, but I went to Kampala Kindergarten for nursery. Then I went to Lohana for a bit. Then went to Kaboja. Then did all my high school in Smark. Then from Smark went to Makerere for med school, and did my internship in Google. Came back to Kampala, did my master's at Makerere, my residency. Did a bit in like a bit of study work placement in the UK, a bit in France as well. Did some MRI subspecialization and imaging subspecialization again in India, and now I'm back in Uganda. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Like I know there's a lot of people looking up to you, but I want them to know that just a little bit of your journey, like where in Kampala, where you were born, you're able to do what you want to do, what you've always dreamed to do right in Kampala. No, don't be like us who ran away from Kampala to do what we love in another country.
the truth is, okay, sometimes the opportunities are not there, but sometimes they're there. Like I remember my residency class for radiology, we were only 2 Ugandans, and it was a class of 4 people.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, like, we were very few people who wanted to do my specialization, and we have still very few specialists in that field in the country.
Yeah.
And then when you come to subspecialization, maybe for oncology imaging, maybe you're looking at me and maybe one other person. So it's, you can either choose to make the opportunities or you look for them. And yes, it's difficult, but sometimes things work out. That's the truth. Sometimes like you push and things work out. Sometimes you push, they don't work out. So like I also maybe had to go and look for other places to do the extra training that I couldn't do in Uganda, but I still did it and came back to add. So
my final question that I ask people on the podcast is, what's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
People don't like hearing this, but there's that short saying that this too shall pass. And it's very short, but it works for almost everything. Like if you're sad or some bad things are happening, this too shall pass. So prepare for the good times. If everything is going well, you're happy, nothing's going wrong, this too shall pass. So like at all times, just be ready and know that change is a constant factor. So it should not find you wanting. And it applies to pretty much everything. So it's, I was a scout growing up, and it was always like, be ready, like be ready, be ready. And my mom used to drill me, like, when the going gets tough, get going. If you're not, again, if you're ready for opportunities, they won't find you wanting. But if your phone's lacking, you can't blame anyone but yourself.
That's a good life lesson, and I'm sure whoever is listening or whoever was able to stay to this point were able to get the life lesson. I know most of the people on YouTube, especially people who watch on YouTube, you can track, because there's a way you can see where people stop watching. Yeah. Like around 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they stop off. But sometimes like this, when you have a good conversation, I don't want to end it. Whoever will stay will listen to it. You know, I put out my work, I'm like, whoever will listen, it was meant for that person. Whoever dropped off, it wasn't meant for them. The other question is, what gets you excited about life?
I really, really love learning new things, which becomes a problem sometimes because like I'm always trying new things. Like I think last year I picked up drawing again. So not last year, maybe 2 years back. Then I did all the data science stuff and artificial intelligence, moving into that field. 3D modeling. So like literally anything, like new things. Like what really gets me is learning something new. And I think there's someone who said you should not be afraid to be the fool. Like don't be afraid of like looking like a fool because you don't know something. Like just be honest, like start something new, look like a fool, and before you know it, you'll be looking back and you're like good, or like you're better than what you were before. Just so that gets me really excited, like learning new things, and it cuts across to like going to new places, like learning new skills, just new stuff. Again, my problem, curiosity.
I gotta say, William, I'm happy that you gave me a whole hour. Usually, when I record with people, I tell them when they give me like anytime they give me to record a podcast, I don't take that for granted because it's like anytime you take somebody's time, it's like part of their life is taken away. Because what
Oh,
they
yeah.
would have done in that time is
Yeah.
towards their life is a lot, but they
Yeah.
give you part of their life. So I don't take that for granted. I appreciate it. And when I reached out to you, I know you were busy, which is understandable, trying to get a day to record, but there was not any hesitation when I reached out to you. And I loved having a conversation with you. You answering these questions genuinely, without pride, without anything. And that's the kind of life I want to live with people. I've had people who say no to the podcast, which is okay. And I understand that that is not their cup of tea. That's not what they want to do. But I know there's other people out there who say yes, and you only need 1 year to change a lot of other people's lives. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. When somebody says no, to me, that means next opportunity. And
Really?
you only need 1 year, and 1 year will change other people's lives. So thank you very much for the time, brother.
No problem. Yeah. Just allow me to give a shout out to the guys of Uganda Press Photo, Stella and her team, and Anna. They're doing like a really good job with photography in Uganda, getting like new photographers on board, but also bring a lot of light to photography. And the guys of 32 Degrees East, Tessa Bahana, Rashida, and the team, and because they've done a lot for arts in Uganda, and that's like the creative arts, photography, mixed media arts, dance, basically anything. And they've put up a new center in Kansanga, like right from scratch. So it's a whole new art center. Everyone should go check it out. Martin as well, Karuma, and the whole team, and all the old photographer guys, like the whole old crew, Chibuka, Kanchu, Edwin, Gilbert, Bashaba. Like there's so many people, but like Storm, Zahara. Yeah, there's so many people, but like all those people have done like a lot to put photography where it's at now. Papa, Siraj, yeah, so many guys. But
Actually, I was just coming because I was just bringing this because my final question on the podcast is always a signature question, which I still had. You've mentioned a lot of people, but who would you like to see on my podcast next as a guest? And you're going to have to help me connect me to that person because I want to have them on the podcast and they can share their story. If you can pick more than one,
I can pick more
that's
than
up
one.
that's up to you, but you have to connect them to me.
I will connect them to you, but I think I'd really love for you to talk to Country with a Camera. Yeah.
Okay.
Country with a Camera is something else, man. He's a good guy.
All right, we'll reach out to Country with a Camera.
And the mate, like everyone should go check out Country with a Camera. It's called Muhammad Ali Kanch, but his Insta is Country with a Camera.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
It's been an hour and 30 minutes of recording, but thank you for this is the longest podcast I've ever recorded in my entire time of existence. But I appreciate that.
I appreciate it too. Thank you for taking the time as well. I don't take it for granted.
All right, brother. Peace out.
Hey there, this is Bani Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.